Most coastal and rural homes make the exact same mistake. They have an amazing view, but the living spaces, they end up dark, enclosed, and surprisingly disconnected from the landscape around them. And that's because everyone focuses on orientating the home towards the view, but they rarely stop to think about where daylight is actually coming from. And that matters more than most people realize, because the way I see it, well, your home is an extension of your body. It influences how you feel and behave every single day. Daylight can affect how you wake up, how you wind down, and ultimately how you feel over time. So the real question then becomes, well, how do you capture the view without sacrificing daylight inside your home, especially when the view and the sun are coming from opposite directions? Now, this project had that exact challenge baked into it. It's an amazing rural coastal property with panoramic sea views to the south, but the sun, well, that's coming from the north. And the goal was to build a second dwelling on the property. So it needed to work as a private retreat, a place to host family and friends, but most importantly, it still needed to feel like a home. That's a genuine asset that could continue serving the family for generations. And when you combine that with a planning cap of just 70 square meters, that's roughly 750 square feet for any second dwelling on the site, you can't waste a single square inch. So let's start with how most would tackle the problem. So the sun is coming from the north, but the views are to the south. And that's where most people get themselves into trouble. And I've got a couple of examples to show you on how we typically see this getting drawn out. So in this first example, you can see how there's a clear delineation between the living spaces, that's the active zones, and the rest zones, where typically you orientate the living spaces towards that southern view in this case, and then the rest zones sit in behind that. But what that does create is a very lopsided plan in terms of daylight. The living spaces to this southern end, well, that's not going to get any of that sun throughout the whole day. So it's going to be dark and dull pretty much all year round. And then the bedrooms, well, they're located on the east and west sides of this northern section, orientated to the sides. They're not really connected to the site either, and they're not getting any of that natural light. So it feels like a very compromised solution, as well as a centralized bathroom, which is quite awkward, connected in with the laundry and opens, directly from your centralized living space, which is not great. You want a lot more privacy for your bathrooms, generally speaking. And then the next example is if we were to rotate the plan 90 degrees, which is what we see a lot of the time, actually, where the short side is running east-west and the long side is running north-south. That really focuses on capturing that view to the south, but it tends to cramp the space. So you're creating this more like a tunnel. All of a sudden, you're trying to fit in a centralized corridor from your entranceway, which takes up a lot of area, and it pushes the bedrooms and the bathrooms to either side. And they start to feel very awkward and quite average. They're not getting any proper outlook to your view. They're not even taking in the northern sun. You wouldn't really know that you've got four sides to play with. It feels like you're building within a inner city type footprint rather than an expansive rural setting. And another thing to note with these type of layouts is taking into consideration the topography. That's the slope of the land. Because in this case, the slope of the land is running this way here. So high point here to low point here. And if we draw that out in section, what that means is there's the slope there, northern side, southern side. And let's say we're putting the house in this section here and we're running it north-south long ways. The entrance is on this end here and the living rooms are down on this end. And let's say you've got your balcony out there, which you can step out to there. But what that does do is it creates a disconnect between the land and the house. So you end up creating this floating platform on top, which creates a striking architectural feature, but it's disconnected from the landscape, which from a biological standpoint is not ideal because we want those biological signals. We want to be able to experience the landscape fully. This is more of a view to look at rather than inhabit. And in this final example, this is getting a little bit better, where you have the active zones on one side, beds on the other. There's more of a balance to the plan. But the biggest issue I see with this plan is a centralized bathroom, which is not connected to an external wall. And that really shouldn't happen in a new build. Bathrooms should be connected to an outside wall where you can incorporate windows that can open, allow obviously sunlight and fresh air in, and to reduce the chance of moisture buildup, you don't want to rely on mechanical ventilation. It's not good practice in general. And then, yes, you're now starting to get some of that southern view from your living zones, as well as getting some of that sunlight in from the northern aspect. But in this case, your kitchen is very small, and that's due to the fact that you've got 2 corridors now on either end, which are taking up a lot of valuable space. So what's another way that we can tackle this problem? Well, we just got to zoom out a little bit and think in first principles. What are we really trying to achieve? What do we ideally want? Well, what we want is we want each space to face the view, and we want sunlight, especially within the active space, the living spaces, because that's where we spend the most amount of time. So how can we do that? Well, there's 4 or 5 jigsaw pieces really in this puzzle. So if we start with priority number 1, let's get the active spaces working the hardest. What we want to do is create a space that opens up to the view as much as we can, the largest view angle, while at the same time getting morning sun, midday sun, afternoon sun in through that zone. So the floor plan can't be that deep, otherwise the sunlight won't penetrate to the other side of the floor plan. So that means that this north-south orientation needs to be quite narrow, and the east-west can be elongated. So that's step 1. This is the active zone. And then the bedrooms, if we collect them on one side, well, we get that imbalance between the one primary bedroom and the one secondary bedroom, because you need a corridor to access the one on the end. Well, yes, the bedrooms are still getting the view. The imbalance creates inefficiencies in the floor plan, and we can collect some of that lost area and still do better. So instead of doing that, we can create one bedroom on one end and then the other bedroom on the other. And the benefit of that is, well, each bedroom is now the same size, and they can both have the view to the south as well as capturing some of that sun to the north. And they can be accessed off the active zones from that top end, reducing the amount of circulation space. And then in terms of the bathroom, well, we can fit that in to one side of our active zone. And that has the view to the south still. And we want one face on an external wall, so that obviously we can capture that view, open up that window, get natural ventilation and some daylight into that space. And then to finish things off, you can create a deck onto the entrance side, and then your larger expansive veranda on the southern side that looks out to that view. So now you've got every space orientated towards the view, and you're still getting plenty of sunlight into your home. So you're getting the best of both worlds. So if we draw this out, this is what it can look like. So in terms of the final plan, you can see the development of that idea, where we've got the centralized living area in the middle, and then the 2 side wings are the separate bedrooms, which really unlocks the plan. It allows for the natural light to enter into your living zones without interrupting the view out to the south. And additionally, the bedrooms now capture that same view to the south, and they still have openings to the northern end. So you're getting some northern light there through the day. And the bathroom, well, that is now opening out to the view as well. So once you arrive onto your deck, you open up these large sliding stacking doors, you take in the view as soon as you open the door, rather than going through a corridor and hitting a blank wall and some dark spots. You open the front door, bang, you're in the landscape, which is a beautiful way to come home. So you can see how everything runs north-south in this case. So through the living room, through the kitchen space, there's no obstruction of view. And we've combined the kitchen and dining space. Now, it's not a full-line house. So this is where priorities come into play, where some people might want a separate dining table. This client was happy to not have one. And it allowed for additional space within that central zone to make it feel a lot more spacious. But it reduces the amount of circulation space. It gives you a fairly generous living, kitchen, dining zone. The bedrooms have been nicely tucked in, and we reduce the area slightly to each bedroom. That's so that we can then capture some of that area and reallocate it to the active spaces, which needed a little bit more depth for some breathing room. It's all about getting the proportions right with the amount of area that you have to play with. And you can see how the bathroom got his and her shower with that bath located on that southern end. So you can open up that full facade and you can take in that view from your bathroom. Fantastic. So you're really capturing the 3 core elements that align a home with your biology. You're getting natural sunlight from the north into your living zones and bedrooms, while capturing the view, you're connecting out to nature, and you're getting plenty of fresh air into each of those different zones. So let's take a quick look at this in 3D. So we developed up two options, one called Legacy, the other called Horizon, one that picks up on some of the Australian homestead vernacular, while the other is a lot more of a contemporary reading with these strong horizontals that really extends the eye out over the landscape. So let me know what you think. Keen to hear what your thoughts are. Which design option do you prefer? And if you have a site or a project in mind that you need some help with, feel free to reach out. There's a link in the description. Until next time.